No other adversary with the capability, capacity, means, and intent to displace the United States.
Chinese President Xi Jinping, China's
World's largest Navy right now. It is soon to be the world's largest Air Force.
An all-hands-on-deck call moment.
China.
In 2023, the Department of Defense gave the China Nuclear Power report to the Congress, which clearly stated that China is the only competitor with the intent, will, and capability to reshape the international order. But to shape and change the existing order, the most important element of any country is its military. And the People's Liberation Army of China is no doubt one of the largest, most potent, and fastest growing militaries in the world. Moreover, October 2017, Chinese leader Xi Jinping made it clear goal for the ELA to modernize by 2035 and to be a world-class military power by mid-century. In this video, you will know all about how the People's Liberation Army really works and how PLA will look in the future. The People's Liberation Army is the military force of Chinese Communist Party, designed to protect the party's interests, ensure its rule, and defend China's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. The PLA prioritizes political loyalty to the CCP and operates under the Central Military Commission, not as a traditional national military but as the CCP's armed wing. The unique thing about PLA is that it is owned and run by Communist Party of China rather than Chinese state. The armed forces are controlled by CCP under the doctrine of the party must always control the people. PLA during its inception was an egalitarian peasant-based force which did not have any concept of ranks, and before 2012, PLA was a paper diver which faced systematic corruption and inefficiencies due to commercial ventures and reduced oversight, prompting significant reforms and anti-corruption campaign by Xi Jinping. PLA operates under Central Military Commission, a party body led by CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping and whose members are card-holding party members. The PLA initially focused on fighting the KMT during the Chinese Civil War, which culminated in the CCP's victory and establishment of People's Republic of China in 1949. Soon after, in 1950, PLA troops entered the Korean War under the banner of Chinese People's Volunteers, engaging UN forces led by United States. Though the war ended in a stalemate, it came at a high cost for China, with millions of Chinese soldiers participating and death of thousands of Chinese soldiers. In subsequent decades, the PLA fought two significant wars with its neighbors. In 1962, it decisively defeated India in a border conflict before unilaterally withdrawing. In 1979, China invaded Vietnam in response to its occupation of Cambodia, but Vietnamese resistance proved formidable and the PLA ultimately withdrew. Since then, China is now seeing a real war. They started a realization in China that they have many enemies around its borders and has much weaker military to deter its enemies. It must modernize at fast pace to make its global and regional operations a reality. Hence, during the 90th Party Congress in 2017, CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping announced a PLA modernization guideline to improve combat readiness. It called for accelerating the integrated development of weapons and vehicles, information warfare, and intelligentization, which means applying the speed and processing power of artificial intelligence or AI to military planning by 2027. The timeline also committed to comprehensively modernize military theory, organizational structure, military personnel, and weaponry and equipment. Each step with the nation's modernization and for creating national defense and military modernization in 2035. The aim is to transform the PLA into world-class force by 2049. World-class means a military force that is capable of winning wars and keeping Americans off balance. The main goal of PLA's 2027 plan is developing the capabilities to counter US military in the Indo-Pacific region and compel Taiwan's leadership to the negotiation table on Beijing step. In essence, she wants military position and paid by 2027 to invade Taiwan. The key developments of PLA since 2017 are rapid commissioning of advanced naval platforms, including destroyers Type 055, Type 05 Goody, amphibious assault ships Type 07Y, and a third aircraft carrier Fujian with electromagnetic catapults. Naval expansion from 340 to 370 shape, phasing out older Cold War era aircraft and development of indigenous advanced models like J-10C, J-16, and stealth J-20 fighters. China now has 5 theater commands, which operate J-20 brigades with over 100 aircraft deployed, standardized equipment with modern decks, ZAM-Q-15, and infantry fighting vehicles. Around 70% of the PLA army main battle tanks and over 60% of its brigade are modernized by 2022. Expansion of conventional and nuclear missile arsenal include the hypersonic missile weapons, DSMD and intercoordinated ballistic lights, DF-41 and DF-31A. Construction of new missile silo fields and development of nuclear triad capabilities, accelerating the expansion of nuclear warheads to 700 by 2027 and at least 1000 by 2030. Developing advanced systems like fractional orbital bombardment system to enhance counter-strike and deterrence capabilities. Air Force modernized with 3,000 advanced fighters and added cutting-edge missile systems. Nuclear warheads stop grew from 400 to 500 plans for additional debris systems. Military budget doubled over the past decade, reaching $223 billion in 2023. China's vision for a blue water navy is the most important aspect of its military modernization strategy, which aims at creating a maritime force capable of operating far beyond its coastal waters. While President Xi did not explicitly use the term blue water navy in his 2017 speech at the 19th National Congress, he emphasized strengthening naval power, enhancing global operational capabilities, and safeguarding China's maritime interests. The vision reflects China's broader goals of projecting its growing international interest, securing vital trade routes, and asserting itself as a major global power. Key components of this vision include expanding its fleet of aircraft carriers and developing advanced support ships for long-distance power production. It also involves establishing strategic maritime presence through overseas naval bases like the one in Djibouti and conducting patrols in the regions such as Indian and Pacific Ocean. China's efforts are focused on modernizing its naval fleet with advanced submarines, destroyers, and cutting-edge technologies, including hypersonic missiles and AI-driven systems. Additionally, securing sea line of communications like the South China Sea and Strait of Malacca, which is central to the strategic trade and energy routes. Beyond its defensive objectives, China enhanced global influence by participating in peacekeeping missions, humanitarian operations, and show of force activities, while entering potential adversaries with credible naval presence. This strategy aligns with China's ambition to challenge traditional naval powers, particularly the United States, and solidify its status as a dominant global force. China's defense spending remains manageable despite economic stagnation, as it counts for only 1.3% of GDP, well below Cold War levels in the US and Soviet Union. Additionally, China spends only 5 to 6% of government's expenditure on the military, allowing room to prioritize defense spending if necessary. The PLA benefits from increased reliance on civilian sources and improved financial management, reducing the burden on the state. Despite some corruption issues, the PLA has made significant progress and should continue to modernize. China's technological self-sufficiency is improving, with advancements in critical areas like aerospace and microchips, reducing reliance on foreign suppliers. While US restrictions on high-tech exports may challenge China's progress, China's domestic innovation and partnership with Russia and other countries can utilize these effects. In March 2023, US Indo-Pacific Chief Admiral John C. Aquilino stated that China would soon have the world's largest airport.
It is the world's largest navy right now. It is soon to be the world's largest air force.
People Liberation Army, Air Force, and Navy combined now operate over 3,150 aircraft. China is producing military platforms at an impressive rate, including 60 J-20 fifth-generation fighters annually, with plans to increase production. China's current active combat aircraft include over 500 J-10 multi-role fighters, 300 J-20 fifth-generation fighters, and a variety of other aircraft, including the H-6K bombers and Waikode transports. Additionally, China's air defense systems are expanding, with nearly 500 S-300 systems and new developers like S-400. China is also advancing in area missions, including the PL-10, PL-12, and PL-15, which are comparable to the Western counterparts. The PL-15 is seen as a rival to US AIM-120 AMRAAM with an operation range of 200 to 300 kilometers. With a fleet of nearly 2,700 aircrafts and over 400,000 personnel, the PLA Air Force has transformed from using outdated MiG-15s in the Korean War to a modern caliber force. China's increasing air power, including advanced fighters, ULEs and missiles, positions it as a growing military power with the ability to perfect force both regionally and globally. PMA has undergone rapid modernization and reorganization under General Secretary Xi Jinping as part of efforts to build a world-class military by 2049. The PLA now rivals the US military in key such as missile capabilities, emerging technologies, and has the world's largest naval fleet. Since Xi Jinping took over in 2012, he has focused on centralizing control, reducing corruption, and modernizing the structure. Although Xi promotes traditional Chinese characteristics, his military reforms extensively resembles US models. The PLA Xi inherited was defense-oriented and lacked operational experience, with unclear command lines and involvement in commercial activities. Xi's goal is to build a world-class military by 2049 which is capable of winning wars by conquering US forces, especially in the Pacific region. In 2015, Xi introduced major reforms, restructuring the PLA's command system to resemble US geographic and functional commands. The military was reorganized into five theater commands, like US combatant commands, each managing specific regions and integrating the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Rubber Force. The reforms also included the creation of specialized forces such as PLA Air Force and Cyber Force, mirroring US structures. By 2035, she expects most reforms to be complete with a fully modernized PLA, ready to face the future challenges, including potential conflict with the US. But the People's Liberation Army faces several challenges despite its efforts being good. One key weakness is its lack of combat experience, as its last war was in 1979. To address this, China focuses on making training more realistic to prepare soldiers for real wars. However, other challenges remain. Slow economic growth, expected to be around 2 to 3% by 2030s, might limit military funding and increase competition with other needs. US restrictions on important technologies like semiconductors, AI, and quantum computing mean China must rely on innovation or find new suppliers. These pressures, along with growing military components, could lead to risky actions like escalating disputes or overextending resources, which might harm long term plans. Despite these challenges, China's military budget remains sustainable compared to Cold War era Soviet spending or current US military budgets. Domestic innovation, selective international cooperation, and adherence to long-term strategies will like continue progressing towards its modernization goals. However, slowing economic growth and geopolitical competition pose significant hurdles. While the PLA may not match the global force posture of USA, but with its current pace, it can become a dominant regional force and global power. China must keep in mind not to risk any strategic mistake as Chinese and American forces are in eye-to-eye position. Xi's leadership has avoided foreign conflicts, particularly in regional territorial disputes. Any miscalculation can lead to an unwanted escalation that can result in a conclusion that will not favor China.